Hello everyone, ladies, gentlemen, and otaku alike. This is Recall Reviews. Attilio back here again, and today we're doing something different. As you can see, I've got a bunch of different video cameras on display on the table in front of me. It's time for the big video camera comparison video that I've been working on for the better part of a month. Now, the reason it took me so long to make is some of these I already owned and some of them I was waiting for to come in the mail. Others I found last minute in a store, so I bought it, quickly put it through its paces, and put it into the video. So I'm going to go more in depth about each and every one of these cameras, and as I do, you will then see the video I shot putting it through some generalized testing. So let's get right into it. We're going to start with my personal workhorse of a camera, my little tank, the Sony 4K FDR AX43. This is a great 4K handycam. It's probably about one of the best you can get on the consumer market. It retails for about $900, so it's still kind of within a doable wheelhouse for some people. And the aftermarket, you can find this camera on eBay between $500 and $700. Now, this camera, as you can see, is a little scuffed. It's a little beat up. It's missing some pieces and parts. And that's because I've been using this camera for about 4 years now. And this is also the main ringside camera. It's been kicked, landed on, dropped, beaten up, and this thing is still running just as good as it did day one. It is a tough little camera. The video and audio is great on this camera, although I use it with my Takstar external microphone just for a little extra audio clarity. And this all around is a great camera, and this is what it looks like. This is the Sony FDR AX43. This is a 4K handycam, and this is what it looks like under this direct lighting. Now, full disclosure, I do have it connected to my Takstar external microphone. So I'm going to walk through the dying yellow light here, which turns out is just the wrong light bulb. It's the one that doesn't match in the entirety of the downstairs. So now I'm through it, and this is what it looks like. Now let's move into the other corner. So here we are now in the better lit corner. I did disconnect the Takstar microphone from the camera itself, so now the audio you are hearing is coming direct from the camera, making this as authentic of a test as possible. Again, hopefully the lighting looks a little better, a little nicer, and I look a little bit clearer than under the yellow light. Now let's move on to the VHS corner. So here we are now in the VHS corner, and even at this distance, I'm sure that you can see many of these titles, or at least a good few of them, but you'll get an even better look when we take a look at that zoom function. So I'm sure even pulled back at this distance, you can see quite a few of these titles. The zoom on this camera is very impressive, and it's really clear. It's still really high fidelity, very high detail, very impressive. Again, this is my workhorse camera. This is my little tank. This has gotten me through 4 years worth of projects, filming, and shows. So let's pull it back a little. So now that we've pulled it back, I can give you a couple thoughts on this camera before I give you my final thoughts on this camera. Now, first off, this camera is not actually in question as far as one that will go to replace the JVC Averio as the commentary camera for Adrenaline TV. I wanted to include this to kind of show you kind of a good baseline of what one of the higher end consumer level and still kind of affordable video cameras are that are on the market. My Sony 4K Handycam, again, at a retail price of $900 and the aftermarket price between $500 and $700, this may be out of the wheelhouse for a lot of people, but you are definitely getting the quality you are paying for. This is a tough little camera. It's been knocked around, beaten and abused for 4 years, and it works just as good as the day I got it, and this will probably last me for many years to come. Again, you're getting the quality that you're paying for. The video is great, the audio is great, and again, it's compatible with external microphones. So you can get extra audio quality out of it by doing that, which is what I do. And I use this for all my professional and personal projects. I've worked on documentaries, I've worked on web series, I've worked on professional wrestling, which I guess would be considered a web series with fully charged and adrenaline at times. But I use this for all of my projects, and I highly recommend this camera, and you can use it for everything from vlogging to actual professional applications. The next camera I'm going to introduce you to is the Sony HDR CX405. This is a 1080p camcorder and costs retail $230. And for what you're paying for it, you get a great quality camera. This is probably one of the most affordable of the consumer level video cameras that are on the market today. And in general, I think would serve most of your purposes. It's great grab and go, open it up, starts up immediately. In good lighting, the video may even look a little better than 1080p. The built-in audio is great, and let's take a look at what this camera can actually do. This is the Sony CX405, a 1080p camcorder, and this is an excellent camera as well. This is kind of the next real step under as far as consumer level cameras go. Don't mind the knee braces, I just came back from work to shoot this. So here we are in the better lit corner. Now I'd like to also preface this and say that I'm kind of demonstrating the cameras in the settings you're more likely going to be using them more often. Some of them I have plenty of outdoor stuff because some of them are real good for the outdoors. This one is kind of a mixed bag with the outdoors sometimes. On really nice crisp days, bright light, this looks fantastic. Slightly dingier days, not as much. But a camera like this, I think, is mostly going to be used in an indoor setting like this one, as would most of the cameras on this video today. So let's move into the VHS corner. So here we are in the VHS corner. Now from this distance, I'm honestly not 100% sure if you can actually see any of the titles or not. But you know what? Let's check out the zoom function and see if we can find it better. Now, I didn't even show you its maximum zoom, but the zoom is good. Yes, it got a little foggier and a little blurrier, but zoomed up like that, you are still able to read just about every single title. And again, under these right circumstances, this camera really shines. And I use this as the stationary camera for the steady shot of the ring in all of our shows, and I have for the last 4 years. This is a great little camera, and now we'll get into my final thoughts on the camera. So my final thoughts on the Sony CX405. This is a great quality camcorder. The built-in audio is fantastic, and the video quality is good 1080p, and again, in the right lighting can look even a little better than 1080p. This camera has faithfully served me well for the past 4 years, just like my Sony Handycam, and the only reason I would get rid of this is if I get another 4K Handycam to take its place as a stationary camera. So let's move on to the next one. The next camera I'm going to, well, in this case, reintroduce you to is the JVC Averio camcorder. This you can find on eBay, or at least one's very similar to this, anywhere between $45 and $60. It's the only way to get these cameras now. They are from 2005. They're not too expensive, and they're not the most desirable cameras unless you're a camera head like me. This is a solid, it's a hefty thing. It's solid. It records in VHS quality, however. The startup takes a little bit. I have it on. There it is. Now it's on. Even back in 2005, they took selfies seriously, and you can see yourself just fine. Flips out, turns around, and it's right side up, unlike some of the cameras we're going to see later on. This, well, let's just take a look and see what this can do. This is what it looks like with me behind the dying yellow light. I will now step forward, and hopefully this looks a little bit clearer. This camera was gifted to me by a good friend of mine after the GoPro I was using decided to burn itself to death. I was using it to record the Adrenaline TV taping commentary table, which this camera would eventually replace. In between the GoPro and this, I was using my phone, I was using my tablet, I was using whatever I had. And this was compact and easy to carry with me show to show. So I decided to use this. Let's move on to the corner. Now, in general, I've been very mixed feelings about the quality of this camera. In good lighting like this, it looks pretty alright. Now, I have this set to record in its highest resolution, which I think might be a lower, a lower quality, lower end 720p. It looks even less quality the dimmer the lights are. The stage where we do the commentary is kind of low lighting. And I'm sure I can put on a little light up there, attach it to the camera somehow with a rig, but I really don't want to go through all that trouble. I need something that looks good that I can point and shoot. Now, this, I'm sure, is a great home video camera. You're in a nice well-lit area. I have a 64 gigabyte SD card in this camera, and it can record 7 hours of footage on that with this camera at that resolution. Now, its battery life is about an hour, give or take. I have it right now tethered to a power source because it died while I was trying to film this. Not because this was taking me so long, but mainly because this was already kind of on low power. I hadn't charged it for quite some time. But let's move on to the VHS corner. Now here we are. I have this basically set at the same distance as every other camera that we've tested today. I'm sure from this distance you might, in this lighting, be able to see some of the titles on here. We're going to test the zoom function real quick. Well, as you can see from that test, yeah, you were able to see quite a few of the titles, if not all of them. The zoom is pretty good on this, and it's pretty clear too. Again, if you're in the right lighting, this would be a great home video camera. You want to record birthday parties, little events, you want to record Christmases, this is a great camera to have. Not necessarily something you'd want to use to record anything for a live entertainment event or a live sporting, again, not the best camera to use for the Adrenaline TV tapings. My final thoughts here on the JVC Averio from 2005 It's a solid camcorder. To this day, I still see this would be great if you were doing some kind of vintage or retro looking project where you needed like a natural VHS look to it. This is great for that, but I wouldn't really recommend using this for any real projects. Like, unless again, you really want that natural VHS quality look. It's a solid, hefty, chunky camcorder, and it did its job. It did what I needed to do for the last year almost, and it's just time to replace it with something a little higher quality again. Let's move on to the next camera. Now the next camera I'm going to introduce you to, or reintroduce you to, which is why I'll keep it short, the Temu 1080p DV camcorder. For $18, you get a pretty decently, I guess, functional camera. Gotta hold the button for a couple of seconds. Starts up relatively quick. Selfie. It's upside down because it couldn't afford the technology to show you it right side up, but you can still selfie on it. Again, I am nostalgic about cameras like this, but let's see what this can do in practice. Okay, so this is the Temu 1080p DV camcorder. This is what it looks like in its initial shot. Again, cameras like this are so nostalgic for me. I know I kind of gushed about it in the previous video. I did just kind of comparing this one and the JVC Averio. So I'm not going to talk too much about it. I'm just going to kind of just go through some of the steps because you already got some of the comparisons as I'm beneath the yellow light. And I can even say it's a dying yellow light because I changed the bulb and then realized that it's not the matching bulbs. Again, now I'm up closer, I'm past it, my head's being cut off a bit. Let me scrunch down a little bit. Let's move on to the better lit corner. And even trying to rig this onto the tripod, it was not easy because for some reason the tripod mount, the screw on the bottom, doesn't really work. So I had to kind of really drill it in there with the kind of blank, just solid part and thread it myself with the different port. So there's that. But now let's move on to the VR. The surprising thing about this camera is the fact that the audio is not as bad as I thought it would be. And again, for an $18 video camera, I mean, yeah, you're kind of getting what you pay for, but I got a little more out of this than I thought I would. But from here, I'm sure you can't see anything from here, so let's see if the zoom can change that. And that was the zoom. It's not the first one you're going to see in this video where it quite literally step by step moves up like that. But yeah, not very good, not very clear. It's only a 16 times zoom and it's not smooth at all in the slightest. So let's move on to my final thoughts on this one. So my final thoughts on the DV, I'm going to call this right now the DV1. Because we do have a DV2 in this video coming up. It's nostalgic. I love everything about this camera, how bad it is, the quality, the film grain, the audio. It makes me nostalgic of when I started my channel. And I can't in good conscience say buy a camera like this to use for you, even if you're starting a channel. But I can see this still being somebody's first video camera. The next camera I'm going to introduce you to is the Polaroid camcorder. Now, it's advertised as an HD camcorder. I don't think it really is real HD. Maybe you'll get good 480 if you're lucky in the right lighting 720. This was a $34 camcorder that I got off of eBay. This is obviously an older camera. I believe this is from 2014. Not very good quality. But it's light, it's compact, fits in your phone pocket, fits in the regular pocket. If you had a breast pocket, it would fit comfortably in there. It's just a little bigger than a credit card and a little wider than your phone today. Screen flips up, flips out, takes proper selfies. Let's take a look and see what this camera can do. So this here is the Polaroid camcorder. It's got other technical name stuff, but this is a Polaroid camcorder. This is what it looks like under this dying yellow light. Here's me a little more stepped up, and we're going to take a look at it in all the same corners and see how it looks. Here we are again in this corner with a little bit better lighting, more even lighting, as well as the fact that, well, right now I have the light above it off. So this is what it looks like in this corner. This is certainly not a 1080p camera. It may have been marketed as such, but this is probably a decent 720p in the right lighting. Now we're going to take a look in the VHS corner. So here we are now in the VHS corner of, with my tower, my tapes, just like before. You got my Godzillas and a couple of horrors. You probably can't even see anything but a blur of colors in all likelihood. So again, here I am. This is just what it looks like. We're going to take a look at the zoom on this. And that's not even technically zooming in all the way. That was about halfway. Now, this is one of the cameras in the running that I will potentially use to film anything on screen for the commentary tables at the Adrenaline TV tapings. So my final thoughts here on the Polaroid camcorder. For $34, especially today, you're getting what you pay for. It's not the best quality, and it certainly doesn't look or sound the best, but I did film a really scuffed looking sketchy video for a friend of mine's birthday this year, so I got my $34 out of it. I wouldn't really recommend this for any practical use, however, unless you're making what looks like a hostage video picking out a birthday present with a bunch of really sketchy DVDs for a friend. Now the next camera I'm going to introduce you to is the Sony Bloggy Touch. This is a 1080p camera, and it's pretty close to true 1080p. This came out around the rise of the smartphone, and as the smartphones of the time didn't have the best cameras, Sony decided to make a device that was functionally a smartphone format, but for the sole purpose of taking pictures and video. Now, it's pretty snappy, and it's got a little bit of weight to it. It's a hefty little thing. So, press the button once, it turns on, and it's already on. A quick second. Press the button again, and it's already off. It's a pretty snappy device. Let's turn it back on, and I'll show you a couple of things. It is called the Bloggy Touch. Now, I got this for $30 on eBay, and for $30, it's a good deal. It's got a touchscreen interface. Very cool, works well. It films long ways like a phone, if that's how you like filming, and it films 16:9 proper. Again, I got this for $30 on eBay, which is about what this averages at. So let's take a look and see what this camera can do. So here I am here, no extra light, under the dying yellow light here on the Sony Bloggy Touch. Now, right off the bat, it is a much better visual between this and the Polaroid. This is here now, once again, the corner with a little bit better lighting, and I will also show you some driving footage I took as well as some still shots, because this takes still shot photos as well. I am just kind of doing a little test filming here. This may be about where the camera stacks up. I'm kind of hand holding it right now. I wonder if the steering wheel's in the way. Hopefully not. Last time I did a shot like this, it was really with the GoPro. Here's me trying it the long ways phone style. I'm just giving this a quick little test. Not that I'm necessarily really going to be filming much ever like this, but this is just kind of an interesting experiment I'm doing with a new camera. I should technically test the other ones, but it's kind of unnecessary. I just find it cool that this is shaped like a tiny smartphone. But again, here's this corner here, and now we're going to move to the VHS corner. This again here is positioned about the same as the Polaroid camera, and next we will move on to some other ones. But again, looking here as far as clarity and quality, my Godzillas and such, you may or may not be able to make out some of them, but now we're going to take a look at the zoom. So here we are back here again. The zoom actually isn't that bad on this camera. You could actually make out some of the title names. It's a little blurry, yes, but it's got a decent zoom. And this is most likely going to be the camera I end up using for doing the commentary table at the Adrenaline TV tapings. And in case you're wondering, to try and get a little extra quality out of this to see how it looks, I have the headlight on this camera as well. My final thoughts on the Sony Vloggy Touch. It's good. It's very solid. For $30, you're getting a lot of quality out of this camera. The onboard audio is pretty good, and the video quality, especially in the right lighting, is excellent. It's a great little take-and-go camera, phone pocket, side pocket, breast pocket, whatever pocket. A good camera, great for blogging, great for vlogging, great for filming little action things. It's just all around a great little, not really novelty. You can practically use this, and I would recommend this if you can find it for under $50. The next camera we're going to look at is the Vivitar DVR E503. This I got for $20 in an Ollie's. Now, I don't know if any of you have an Ollie's near you or know what Ollie's is. It is a liquidation store that has a lot of good stuff for not a lot of money and a lot of garbage for more money than it should be marked as. Again, $20 camera. Doesn't flip out so hard to do selfies. You kind of rig it on a tripod. There's no tripod mount. It's light. There's no weight to this camera. Let's see what this can do in action. Alright, so this is the Vivitar DVR E503. I picked this up in an Ollie's for $20. Vivitar used to have a real name in the camera and camcorder industry. They used to be pretty good. Nowadays it's more so the name is being rented out and it's slapped on top of a bunch of cheap, barely workable products. So here we are now. Hopefully the lighting makes it look a little bit better, as I state in every camera that we take care of. And like I was saying before, you know there's something up with the kind of quality camera you have when you plug in a 32 gigabyte SD card and it tells you have 3 hours and 57 minutes of recording time. I have no idea what video file format this will be. I'm assuming it's going to be an AVI. So let's move on to the VHS corner. So here we are now in the VHS corner, and I guarantee you can't see anything on this shelf. Now there is no zoom function on this camera, and I'm sure for $20 you're getting exactly what you pay for it. Again, I got this in Ollie's. Total impulse buy, just throwing another random camera into this comparison. My final thoughts on the Vivitar. Vivitar used to have a standing in the video camera community, and now they're just a hollow shell of what they used to be. This is garbage, a waste of $20. I'm still happy I have it in the video, but there's no reason to ever use this unless you wanted the shakiest of shaky cam in a video. Don't use this, I don't recommend. The next one I will introduce you to is the Temu 1080p DV2 camcorder. Now this one came with a detachable lens, which actually does make a difference, you'll see soon, and a shotgun mic to go up on top. Now it does get corded in. I took the cord off for presentation purposes, but it's not very heavy, it's still very light, it's still a very nothing going on camera. For $30 you get these extras. Now again, you come up, the power button's on the top instead of the side this time. Press that, starts up pretty quick. Again, same thing. Selfie, can't afford the technology to flip it right side up. The lens does not make anything more clear, but let's see what this camera can do. Right, so this is the second of 3 Temu cameras on this video that I'll be demonstrating in this video and putting to the test. Now, if you're wondering what these are, this is what came with this camera. This being a slightly more expensive camera, coming in at $30 instead of the $18 that the Temu 1080p DV came in. This also being advertised as a 1080p camera also came with a shotgun mic and a lens. So this is what it looks like right now. I'm behind the dying yellow light without the lens or microphone on. So I'm going to throw those on now so you can maybe see a difference. I don't think there really is one. So here we are. I've got the lens and the shotgun mic attached to this camera. Now I can already see, even though the screen, the selfie screen that's facing me, still can't afford the software to flip it right side up, so I'm on the ceiling according to the camera. But I can see you have a larger field of view. You can see more. I was standing the same distance and you can see past my shorts with the lens on where you couldn't with the lens off. So it does widen your field of view. Whether that makes things more clear, I don't know. But as you can see under the dying yellow light, stepped right through. And I gotta say, I was about equidistant to some of the other cameras, and my head is not quite cut off. So let's move on to the better lit corner. Now, here's going to be a catch. Supposedly, if you want to utilize this camera to its maximum ability, you need to keep the lens on and use the microphone that comes with it. Now, I don't think this microphone's actually going to make a difference in the audio, or at least not a big one. So, I'm going to attach my Takstar microphone that I use on my Sony Handycam that I use to record all my other main projects. So we'll do that in the VHS corner. Okay, so here we are now in the VHS corner. I have my Takstar microphone attached to the camera. There's really no rigging system for it, so at least to attach to this camera. So I kind of have it jerry-rigged over. So the audio may suffer slightly, but I don't really know yet. That being said, hopefully the audio even comes in better on obviously a higher quality microphone. But let's see here. As you can see, or maybe may not see any of the titles, let's test that zoom. So as you can see, it's zoomed in to its absolute maximum. Like the other Temu camera, it is only a 16 times zoom, and I'm sure this is a blurry, foggy mess. I'm sure you can't really see anything here. That being said, again, For what you pay for this camera, a $30 camera that comes with a microphone and a lens that'll give you a bit wider of a picture, I can still see this being somebody's first YouTube camera. Again, for the price, yeah, you're getting what you pay for, but this was a little bit better than what I thought. And being a whole $12 more than the $18 Temu camera that I had gotten previously, this is a little bit of a step up. My final thought on this camera is, again, it's nostalgic. If I had to pick between the two, this one is much closer to the overall setup of what some of my old YouTube cameras were like. This one is slightly better quality for a whole extra what, $12? You have a slightly improved camera. And this is, it's still pretty awful. The audio, the mic doesn't make much of a difference. It's not very good, but you can plug in a better mic for slightly better audio. The processing of this is not very good, but the frame rate's okay, and the video quality in the right lighting can be just passable. Again, like the other Temu camera, I can't really recommend this, but I can see it being somebody's first YouTube camera. The next camera I'm going to introduce you to is literally in the palm of my hand. This is the Mini DV. I don't know if you can see this, so I'm going to get closer. This here, the Mini DV. It's a cute little camera. Let's turn it on. There we go. It's on. It's got an actual functional little screen on the back, one of the smallest screens ever. Now, let's take a look and see what this can do. Oh, by the way, this was an $18 camera. Alright, so now we're testing out the Mini DV. Now this is the mini, tiny keychain camera that you saw at the beginning of the video. Now, you may or may not be surprised by the video quality during this test and some of the other footage you're going to see. In this instance, here I am in front of the dying yellow light. I will now move up a little bit, so maybe you can see me better. I don't know where I am quite in the framing, but let's move over to the better lit corner. Now, I ran a couple little tests on this camera before making this video, just so I can kind of gauge what I would be working with. And to be honest, in the right setting, the video quality is not as potato quality bad as I thought it would be. To my surprise, the audio itself from this camera was pretty okay. Now, I'll give you my final thoughts on this at the end of the video, but I'm going to show you some footage I took at an event, an outdoor event we did about 30 minutes from my house in Middletown, New York at the Dogwood Acres Family Farm.
They put it on like your tie or something like that. Yeah. Have the referee have it on his leg.
He's drinking the bong water.
Walter, where are we?
That's very cute.
I didn't know the fucking...
Is it live?
It's a little camera.
How'd you know that's your new camera for Tuesday?
That's what I said. I got this and a fucking bootleg GoPro.
Did you tell him that?
No, not yet. Yeah. Turn it off. So here we are now at the VH VHS tower. I'm sure all of this is a blurry mess, and you can't see a single title on this face here. Not that I would expect you to on this. This was an $18 mini video and picture camera. I'll also show you some examples of the still frames it took, which again aren't as bad as I thought they were going to be. That being said, again, this is what it looks like. You may or may not be surprised by the quality of this camera. I know, something like this with the word quality attached to it. It was better than what I thought it was going to be, especially when it came to the audio. Now, from this distance, I don't know how good the audio is going to sound, but I know based on the tests I ran when I was up close to the camera, as well as at the event itself outdoors, the audio was pretty okay. So my final thoughts here on the Mini DV. This has no business being as good as this actually is. The audio is surprisingly okay, and the video, especially if you color correct it, I'll show you an example of a color corrected, slightly edited clip right below me. It's kind of impressive. If you want a fun little thing just to mess around with and play with, I recommend this. I wouldn't recommend this for any real projects or any real purposes, but it's a decent, fun little camera. I got my $18 out of it, so not good for projects, good for fun. Up next, a definite upscale in quality. Again, in the palm of my hand, the camera I will introduce you to next is the Akaso EK7000. This is a 4K Handycam that I got off Amazon for $60. Now, I thought $60 4K action cam, compact, pocket size, it's gotta be too good to be true. But let's take a look and see what this camera can do. So here we are now on the Akaso 4K action cam. As you can see here, I'm starting out under the yellow light, just as I did with all the other cameras we've looked at so far, stepping in, and through the light, hopefully the quality has improved. Now, this is marketed as a 4K action cam. Now, I'm not necessarily sure it will record in true 4K quality, but let's take a look going to all the same bases. Here we are now in the corner here. We got some better lighting, and hopefully it looks a little bit better as far as the overall lighting and quality, and hopefully looks a little truer to the 4K that it's branded as. Now, I do have this set at its 4K 30 frames a second setting. Now, I'm going to preface this with saying this is a $57 4K action cam. Now, I'm sure that, again, it's not true 4K, but I'm hoping it's not too bad. Now we're going to move over to the VHS corner. So here we are again in the VHS tower corner. In theory, you should be able to make out some of these titles even at this distance. As if this is a real 4K camera, the quality should be enough to get a good see at, what some of the individual titles may be. Now that being said, again, this I don't believe has a zoom function. I have not been able to find a zoom function on this camera. So this is basically what it is, and this is what it looks like with the extra headlight facing light directly toward me. Well, here we are. We got the headlight facing directly toward me. Hopefully it increases the quality of the camera, and if this does seem to be a good choice as far as cameras go, then I believe that this may be the option I end up going with as far as filming the commentary table sections at Adrenaline TV. So my final thoughts here on the EK7000. It's a great camera. It looks good. It sounds pretty okay. I had to widen the mic holes so you can get more audio in, but it is compatible with an external microphone so long as you have a USB-C microphone. I haven't tested it out in this video because I don't have one of those microphones and I didn't buy one yet, but I can do separate videos on all of these later down the line and other comparisons anyway. But for $60, I recommend this. This is great for on the go. It's got onboard stabilization. You can set that into functions. It's good for outdoor quick events. It looks good. It sounds pretty good. And for $60, you can use this for pretty much any project you can think of. We now have the Temu 4K point and shoot camera. This camera kind of surprises me. It's got some real weight to it. It's a hefty little thing. It's a pretty solid-ish camera. It feels a little plasticky cheap, but it's a solid enough camera. Press the button once, turns on pretty quick. Now, it does film technically in 4K. Now, you're going to get to see all the specifics in a very little bit, but for $50, you get yourself a pretty decent grab-and-go camera. Let's see what this can do. So this camera actually kind of surprised me. Now this here is the Temu 4K Ultra HD point and shoot camera. Now there's no company name and no markings, not even a DV on it. So I'll just call it the 4K point and shoot. So this is what it looks like. It's right now set to 4K Ultra HD. So as you can see, the frame rate, and even I can see on the screen, which is right side up and flips out. It's really kind of cool looking. So as you can see, the frames are not 30 frames a second. I feel like it's maybe dipping down toward anywhere from 18 to 25. So using this in a lower quality may be the way to go. So let's run through the normal paces beneath the dying yellow light, and now stepping through the dying yellow light. Now let's move into the better lit corner, and then we'll start playing with the resolutions. So here we are in the better lit corner. Hopefully the quality does look better. Right now we are still in the 4K resolution. So let's move it down to 2.7K. Now here's one thing to keep in mind about all these Temu cameras. They all film with an AVI format. So not the most compatible on modern rigs. Now I load the video right into my editing program and then I render them out as an MP4 while keeping the same quality that it's set to, so I can try and keep it as true to the video resolution as possible. That being said, a cool thing about this camera is it can actually take external microphones. So I have a fun idea. Let's try both my Takstar microphone as well as the one that came with the other Temu camera. So this is what it sounds like with the microphone from the Temu 1080p DV2. And now we're going to test it with my Tacstar. And this is what it sounds like with my Tacstar shotgun mic attached to it. Now the audio may be a little clearer, maybe a little better, maybe a little boomier than what the built-in camera has. But I have to say the built-in microphone on this camera really kind of surprised me too. Now, when I was running some basic video tests with this camera when it came in last night, I found that I was most satisfied with the 2.7K, as it looks like it was still all in 30 frames a second. So now let's move into the VHS corner. Now the reason I disconnected the microphone is because I wanted this to be as authentic as possible. Now let's take a look here. You may be able to make out some of the tapes here. So now we're going to test the zoom function. Well, that was the zoom function. And you and I can both more than make out several of the titles on those shelves. Without sacrificing much in the way of video quality, the zoom is much better than the DV and the DV2. But they all suffer from the same problem. It's not a clean, nor is it a smooth zoom. It quite literally, step by step, moves in closer to whatever it is you're zooming into. Just like that. But for $50, I'm pretty impressed. Now, the quality of the camera is quite impressive. I'm filming right now at its 2.7K function, which for me personally, I think is the sweet spot for this camera. You're getting the most out of your video quality without sacrificing much in the way of frame rate. You could go up to 4K, get cleaner looking video, but you're sacrificing a lot in your frame rate. You could go down to 1080p, get your high definition 1080p footage without sacrificing anything in the way of frame rate. This camera also kind of impresses me on an audio level. The built-in microphone is pretty decent, and the audio sounds pretty good, in my opinion, from this camera. Now, you can hook up an external microphone to it, and you can get better audio. Obviously, the audio processing capabilities of this camera are not going to be as good as one of the bigger name brands, but you will get slightly or sometimes greatly improved audio with a decent external microphone such as my Tacstar or other microphones like it. This camera, for $50, I would actually recommend other people get for their first YouTube or Rumble or Vimeo if people are still using that, or Dailymotion. Actually, is Dailymotion even still a thing? Well, regardless, I would recommend this as somebody's first video camera. It's good quality. It works with most budgets. You know, it's a $50 actual full HD camera that can accept an external mic and that already has decent built-in audio. Now, my final thoughts here on the Temu 4K point and shoot. This is a surprising camera. Again, for $50, you're getting something that can film comfortable enough in 2.7K, good quality, surprising audio, compatible with external microphones so you can get better audio, and it's a great grab-and-go camera. For $50, I'm really blown away. This is one I would actually recommend somebody get to film early projects. This is a better first YouTube, Rumble, Dailymotion, whatever. This is a better first camera than both of these combined. This I could actually recommend to somebody to get to be their first producing content camera, regardless what that content is. Now, obviously, you want to step up in quality with some more name brands if you want to film more serious projects. But as a grab-and-go camera, $50, you really can't lose with this. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. And if you stayed in for the long haul, thank you so much. I know this was a long video, and I hope that you enjoyed watching it as much as I enjoyed making it. This on a personal level, this video meant a lot to me personally. As some of you may know, I recently retired from in-ring activity with professional wrestling, and it's a devastating blow to me personally. I'm still trying to adjust to being at the shows and not really being a part of it anymore. Of course, I'm still handling production, but I loved performing, and I loved being in that world, and now it's been kind of depressing not being in it like that anymore. So I needed to find some new hobbies again. In this case, I reignited an old passion. I love video cameras and camcorders and things of that nature, and gadgets, and this helped lift me up out of that funk. And I'm back on track where I should be now, and I feel great, and this was a lot of fun. And I mean, aside from the fact that I was making this video so I can find a good camera to replace this at the Adrenaline TV tapings, which I think is going to be a toss-up between the EK7000 and the Temu 4K point and shoot. Both cameras are good, both exceeded my expectations, so what I'm going to do is I'll use one camera for one show, and I'll use this camera for the next show, and when all is said and done, I'll see which one I like the most, and that's what I'll use moving forward for the forever camera for the commentary table. Now, this video helped me pick what my next camera for certain projects are going to be. You know, I can definitely see myself using these every now and again, just for random episodes of Attilio Tries Random Snacks, Foods, or whatever I call that show. This will forever be my stationary camera. If you want to make a horror flick that looks like it came out in the 80s, sure, go with this. Garbage. Fun to make scuffed, sketchy videos for your friends' birthday parties, which is what I will continue to do with this. Great grab-and-go camera, good for blogging and vlogging and capturing little things. Surprisingly good. You can use this for a bunch of applications, but more stationary stuff I think works best. Great. This is also great grab-and-go. Film, high definition, 4K, good, decent stabilization. Garbage. Fun to play with. Really nostalgic, but can't really recommend for anything serious. But I can still see people using these as a first, content camera. So I hope that this helped you guys decide what either your first camera is going to be or what your next camera can be. I hope that this helped you just as much as it helped me in many different ways. And again, thank you for watching, and please do tune in next time.